Hello and welcome to Twickenham, where they're getting the stadium ready for the weekend's big game, Leinster against Ulster. They've even got a machine to make sure that the grass is just the right shade of green. And of course after that it's the turn of the Aviva Premiership final. Leicester against Harlequins in what should be a fitting finale to a remarkable season. What better opportunity than to talk to the people who work behind the scenes. Welcome to Guinness Behind the Badge. The semi-finals certainly didn't disappoint. Harlequins have ended their season in the best possible way, finishing on top and getting through to their first final. They got rid of Northampton Saints in a very tight contest, and that decision by Chris Robshaw to go for the line-out right at the death was a gutsy one. Joe Marler finishing off with a try. Harlequins looking in good form, but they're up against a Leicester Tigers team who've powered past Saracens into their 8th consecutive final. They are on a roll. They'll be looking for the Tuilagi brothers to punch holes in the Harlequins' defence. We do know one thing for sure, of course. It will be a fascinating final. Both teams looking to play good rugby. Can Harlequins lift the trophy for the first time, or will it be Tigers yet again? Now, here at the Premier Rugby offices in Twickenham, the team works tirelessly to make sure that the game is promoted as well as it possibly can be throughout England, the UK and the world. The game is getting that big, and right at the heart of it is Paul Morgan. You must be a busy man at the moment. Yeah, it's a 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week operation at the moment. The whole focus is on the Aviva Premiership final, and it has been for a while on selling that out. And you know, from our offices in Twickenham, you can look out the window and you can actually see the stadium, so we can see it almost figuratively filling up. There's a real buzz about the game. How far out does English rugby in the Aviva Premiership reach? The final will be shown in 90 countries around the world. I think there's always an interest in English rugby. I think Nick Mallett was one of the first people to say, if English rugby gets it right, look out. And I think that's a feeling around the world, isn't it? Everyone likes beating England. Everyone likes being interested in English rugby. And, you know, we'll see at the Aviva Premiership final could be as many as 18 key English players are in the actual team itself. So I think that helps too. I think that has grown the interest, having more homegrown players. And potentially a new name on the trophy, Harlequins. I mean, Leicester, they know that trophy very, very well. But Quins, a new name. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they do say sometimes the big finals, you need to get to one to win one. But obviously Harlequins are going to try and buck that. And, you know, what a season they've had. And, you know, it is probably good for the game. No one at Saracens would like to say this, to have a new figure in there, new name in there, and especially when they're so close to the stadium. So I know it's created a big buzz. What about the players? What do they like to deal with when you're saying, we need you to do an interview here, we need you to meet someone here? Do they take it on board? The demands are huge, and I think what they both are is very organised teams, very organised media operations, and they understand the need to promote the game as well. They need to understand they need to push themselves out there as brands. When you see a club, can you kind of work out, I can see why they're struggling. I can see why it's not working for them, but I can see why it's working for them, because you can see the structure of it all. Yeah, I think you can. I mean, I think Quins are a great example. I mean, you know, I always just say through the start of the professional era, if you want to know how to do well, just look at Leicester and Wasps, and that was the way. And I think now, if you said to any club, if you want to know how to do well, look at the Quins. I mean, Leicester, you know, they're a machine on and off the pitch. Look at their ground now, 24,000. They embody everything great about sport, not even rugby. So they are a fantastic role model. Now, rugby is a fast developing sport. 2016 sees its inclusion in the Olympics. It's a professional sport, it's changing fast, and right at the start of the professional game, one man decided that in amongst all the hurly-burly of the game changing, the players' needs needed to be looked after, and it is the Chief Executive of the Rugby Players Association, Damien Hopley, a player. Now here we are in a boardroom, in the office. Increasingly, this is where a lot of rugby chat is done. The office is taking over, but it's still rugby at heart, isn't it? Yeah, it is, and I think sometimes we lose track. It's still a game, but it's a business now. And from our point of view, we want to ensure the players are best promoted, protected within that environment, and that industrial relations are as buoyant as they can be. Now, what made you think, I'm the man to set this up? I was actually captain of the England Sevens team in Hong Kong in '96, and I picked up a pretty serious knee injury, and I went to the rugby union saying, look, you know, I've lost all my earnings, I have to pay all these medical bills, can you help? And they effectively told me to move on in a not so nice way. So not only was I dealing with the sort of psychological issues of having to retire early, but also I thought, well, hang on a minute, this is wrong, you know, this is sort of master-servant relationship.
RFU telling us what to do, and that's wrong. The players should be well organised. So with the likes of yourselves and various other leading players at the time, I went around and said, look guys, I think this is a really important thing. Looked at the PFA in football, PCA in cricket, and as all good rugby people do, they said, well, you go on and do it, and we're right behind you.
We're now dealing with players who are entirely professional. That's where they started, that's what they're in. Are they very different creatures to deal with from the old school?
I think there's probably much more worldly wiseness about the old school, because they were involved in normal jobs. I mean, they went back on a Saturday, as you and I did, went back to our work on a Monday, and normally got ridiculed for having lost at the weekend. So it brought you back down to earth pretty quickly. And so one of the massive programs we now have with the clubs and the RFU co-funding is all about player development, and what do you do when you finish? How do you fill your time once you're playing, because you can't train 24 hours a day. So how do we help our players become more rounded, have a work-life balance, and have interests away from rugby?
One thing that we've seen creeping into rugby a little bit now, and it hit sport in a big way with Gary Speed and his sad death, is depression creeping in, and people opening their eyes to depression now. Is that something that the RPA are taking very seriously?
We've had a confidential counselling service in place for the last 4 years for our players. And really that's just all about whether it's depression, injury, addiction issues. And that psychological piece, I think, is something that doesn't get thought about a lot. We think about incredibly fit, strong, brave, slightly madcap sportsmen, you know, who run into each other 100 miles an hour. But actually, what are the other aspects of their careers and their lives?
You've done quite a bit. Hoppers, players are in safe hands. Great talking to you. Well, it's quiet now, but you can guarantee that on Aviva Premiership Day, Twickenham is going to be absolutely buzzing. Party atmosphere, fancy dress, people coming to support their team to the hilt. For the players, the trick is going to be to try and keep everything nice and calm. Now, Peter Richards, you've been here on Cup Final Day. What's it like?
Well, of course, it's the pinnacle of the season, so you feel successful at the fact that you've actually got here. But I think it's a question of belief for each team. Some teams are just happy, essentially, just to be here and soak up the occasion. Other teams come here to win.
Now, you've been here with Wasps, with London Irish, and with Gloucester. Yeah. Which team do you reckon more closely resembles the situation that Harlequins would find themselves in?
Certainly Gloucester. I think we arrived here in 2007. Very pleased to be here facing a rampant Leicester team. But it's essentially the occasion got to us, and Alex Tuolangi on that occasion ran us ragged, and we were on the end of our hiding.
You came agonisingly close with London Irish. You won it here with Wasps. Give us a feeling of the difference, win and lose.
Well, lose, you just want to get out of the stadium as quick as possible. I think, you know, the fantastic crowd, fantastic, you know, being a club game at Twickenham, as we've experienced with opening day fixtures, it creates a wonderful atmosphere, but having to watch the other team go up and lift the trophy is not a pretty sight, so you want to get out the gate as soon as possible. If you win, which obviously one of the teams will be, to soak it up and enjoy what is a hugely successful end to a wonderful season is a great feeling.
Now, you played here, obviously, for England. You know what that's like, and you would always, of course, have changed in the home dressing room. Any of those matches you played, did you have to change in the away dressing room?
Yeah,
what does that feel like?
On a couple of occasions.
Is that a bit odd?
Well, yeah, they're both pretty good. In fact, they're both pretty good changing rooms. But of course, you want the home changing room with the rows and that pride. Being an Englishman, you want to be in the home changing room. You know, you can affect. Teams have lucky changing rooms home and away, and I'm sure Leicester, being their 8th final, they've probably been in both and won and lost in both. So I don't think they'll pay too much attention to that. But yeah, it's always nice being at home.
Do you see them beating Leicester?
I don't, in all honesty, no. I don't think many teams that finished top I don't think have ever won the league. But they rightly won the league and rightly in the final, because I think you've got the two best teams here. But the way Leicester have been playing over recent months, and their game at the Stoop a couple of weeks ago, where they really put Harlequins to the sword, I think puts them as heavy favourites. And you know, tactically, Quins have got to get it absolutely spot on to get a win on.
So the end of season finale draws ever closer. Leicester Tigers against Harlequins in the Aviva Premiership final. It'll be a cracking game. Now, we also have a suitable end of season finale for you right here on Guinness Behind the Badge. We're giving you the chance to win a signed Premiership Rugby jersey from the team of your choice. We'll give you all the details next week. You can win it on Twitter. Just follow the Guinness Twitter account for all the details. We will also be visiting the Premier Final New Boys, Harlequins. So until then, bye-bye.